Hey, welcome everyone. This is the DGS CCC Bluebeam training. So today we're going to talk about what happens from the very first point in which you have the software installed, the Bluebeam 2019 software installed, what you should do, what's the very first thing you should do. So when you get the software installed and when you open it up, it's going to look something like this. You know, it might look a little different, and the reason that it looks sometimes different in different ways is because of a thing called a profile. So the profile is what kind of determines where the buttons are located, either on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. So one of the very first things we want to do is we want to load a current profile. Now, if you have used this software before, which I don't think any of you have, you'll want to save the current profile that you have active if you've been customizing it, but I don't think any of us need to worry about that who are new users. If you've opened this for the very first time, you won't need to worry about saving any profiles because this is just starting from scratch for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to find that, locate that profile, and it should be titled DGS CCC. And so this particular file, if you don't have it, just ask and we'll get it emailed to you. But the reality is, double-click. All you have to do is download that, double-click it, and you'll go ahead and import the profile by double-clicking it. And when you do that, then you can see it will change the look of your screen. So even if you're using an older version of Bluebeam, if you're using Bluebeam View or something like that, this should work to import that profile. Now, it won't work on an iPad, but it will work on any Windows computer. So for the Windows machines that are on this call, we're going to go through this today, but I'm going to be showing little screenshots from iPads, and there will be a separate iPad training. So there'll be a separate training from this one that just covers the iPad. But the reality is that all the buttons do the same thing in both versions of the software, right? It's just where they're located that changes. So when we're going through this, I want you to kind of pay special attention more so to what the buttons look like versus where they're located. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to point out some really important buttons as we go through here, like the studio icon or the tool chest icon. And don't just think like, oh, the tool chest is over on the left or the studio is over on the right. Just think like the studio button looks like a little house. The tool chest looks like an actual tool chest. Because when you're looking at these different software applications, it's important to have that working and have that understanding so that you can actually find them pretty quickly. So one of the very first things we're going to do for those of you who are following along and have this software open is we're going to create a Bluebeam Studio account, right? So everyone locate this studio button over here on the right and go ahead and bring it to this point and then just click sign in. So when you get to this screen, it's going to ask you to sign in, but obviously if you don't have an account already, if you've never set up Bluebeam before, you're going to want to click over here on the right-hand side to create an account. So when you do that, you'll see the screen changes and it asks you to start filling in your information. So you're just basically going through and filling in your first, last name, just as you're filling this out. Your email address. You can see when you create a password, the password has to be kind of complicated here. One thing that's important, though, to really note as you're filling this out, probably one of the most important things you are doing when you're setting this up is that you are setting up your display name properly. So again, we're in create account, and that comes from the studio sign in here, create account. And this display name should be first name, space, last name, and then a space, a hyphen, a space, and then whatever company you're a part of. So you can see here the way I filled mine in. You want to have that filled in that way. And even for those of you who are doing this and are setting this up, maybe go ahead and copy that information here because we're going to reuse this display name a couple times here. So I'll give everyone a second to go ahead and fill this information in, put in your email. you're creating a brand new password. It can be any password you want, uppercase and lowercase, note the number and special character, all that fancy stuff you have to put into your password. Confirm it one more time. Once you hit create account, what's going to happen is it's going to send you an email to verify your account. So you'll need to open up your email and click a little green button that verifies the account. So,
Troy?
Yes.
Hey, so don't we need to locate that that file, which I don't think I have, before we do this?
The profile?
Yeah, how can I sign in?
So the profile, let me just say a couple things. We'll come out of this for 1 second. So here in the meeting itself, in the chat, I sent that profile out to everybody.
Oh,
so you can find it right here. Okay. It's also in the actual appointment. I put it in here as well. So one of those two places, if you want to see if you can find it. Yeah, obviously you need to start with this, but the reality is that, you know, whatever
I'm still here, but I lost the leader.
Sorry about that. I'm back, everybody.
Okay, good.
I apologize. That's going to truncate our recording. And I apologize for the sirens, too. I live in the middle of downtown, and we have apparently a lot of sirens going off today. So I apologize for that. Some police activity outside. Anyways, coming back to this profile, it doesn't necessarily really matter what profile you're in. Anything I choose, all I'm doing is I'm looking for this button when I'm talking about Bluebeam Studio. So you can see here, it doesn't really matter. That's why I kind of said when you're going through this, you know, it doesn't matter whether this button's on the left or the right. You just need to find this button. And so once everyone's found that button, once everyone's gone through and created their account, once everyone has come in and created their display name with first name, space, last name, dash, hyphen, dash, and then AECOM or whatever company you happen to be with, DGS, whatever. If you want to put in your department or division, you can put that information in as well. Once you've plugged all that information in and you're ready, then we're going to go ahead and have you guys sign in. So you verify your account through email if you just created it from scratch, and then you'll get your password that you just created. Go ahead and sign in. You can check the box to keep yourself signed in as well, and that will sign you in to Bluebeam. So if there's someone who still needs more time to sign in to create the account, let me know.
Yeah, this is Anthony. I'm working on it right now.
All right, perfect. We'll give you another minute, Anthony. Okay. If you have any questions, go ahead and chime in. Okay. But the reality is, you know, I'll just kind of keep blabbing here as you work this through. The reality of what that profile does is that profile is what gives you all of these tools that we've set up for you to do, like punch lists, for example, or RFIs. That's one of the big things that the profile gives to you. And then what the Bluebeam Studio, here's the studio right here, what that studio login does, and you can see, I'll go ahead and sign out, what that sign in does right here. What that does is that allows you to have access to the Bluebeam Studio cloud, to that software. So I will go ahead and kind of explain what that is now while we're waiting on Anthony. So all of you have probably used Adobe at one point, and you're all probably familiar with the fact that you can use software to open up PDFs. But what makes this software, what makes Bluebeam different from the Adobes of the world is that, one, it's designed specifically to interact with drawing files. So everything for Bluebeam is built for drawings versus just PDF documents. The second thing is that Bluebeam includes a studio application here, which is the very first button I showed you. Notice this button looks like a little kind of building. It's like supposed to look like a little studio building here, right? So this is the cloud application that's built into Bluebeam. So what's important to note here is that, you know, this is really what sets it apart. It has a cloud application. You guys have all probably used a cloud application at one point or another. Everyone's used Box or Dropbox or OneDrive. So you understand what that is. That is a cloud application. And so within Bluebeam Studio, there's two big components. And there's Bluebeam Studio Projects and Bluebeam Studio Sessions right here. So you can see these two at the top. Once you've logged into this studio, you'll see these two kind of highlight for you so you can kind of get into these. So Bluebeam Studio Projects, that's really what's going to be very similar to like a Box application or a Dropbox or a SharePoint. It's really just a folder structure, and really primarily within DGS, this is the one we're going to be using. The other one, just so you understand what it's for, this is a studio session. So when you're doing design review primarily, you want to have multiple people able to access the drawing and add review comments. So this allows, with a Bluebeam session, it allows multiple people to do this simultaneously. For the purpose of what we're doing here today, we're only going to be focusing here on the Bluebeam Studio session, or I'm sorry, the Bluebeam Studio projects. So that is where we're going to start right here in Bluebeam Studio projects. So Anthony, how are you doing? Are you logged in?
Well, when it says Bluebeam ID, your email address, I sort of screwed up on that. So how do I go back and?
You may need to come back to the sign in, and if you put in the wrong, if you try to create an account using the wrong email address, then you're going to have to start over with putting in the correct email address.
Yeah, because it says e.g. your email and company.com, and I did that literally instead of my own email address.
I see. Okay. No, yeah, you'll need to. So let's go through it again. So yeah, oh yeah, I see what you're saying here. It gave you the example, but no, it's your actual email address here.
Yeah, I realized that since it's going to send me a confirmation email.
So yeah, you need to actually put in your real address and your real name, first name, last name. So maybe go ahead and go back to create account and just start through that again.
Okay.
And I will keep talking here about the interface while you're doing that.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So let's kind of keep talking about this. So I mentioned Bluebeam Studio, and you understand that Bluebeam Studio allows you to, actually, let me sign in here really quick. Sorry about that. So Bluebeam Studio allows you to have access to all of these different applications. Now, notice here a couple things. I have a whole bunch, obviously, I've been using Bluebeam for a while, and I have a whole bunch of these studio projects, which is essentially that folder structure, right? I have many of these studio projects set up already that I've either created or been a part of. Once you join in to this studio project, you're going to see this list as well. So there's two components to this that are important. One is the name, obviously. So you see right here, this particular one, let me expand this out a little bit. What that we're going to access, the CCC Placer Phase 2, dorm and multipurpose. I'm going to go ahead and log into that really quick. So I can kind of.
Troy, I'm signed in. I'm signed in, so I'm not sure what to do now.
Okay, well, you're caught up with everyone else. I'm just kind of doing a little demo at this point,
Okay.
and we'll get back on track here now.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and do this really quick. So what you can see here is I'm going to have all of you guys join this in just a second, but before I do, I want to kind of show you around a little bit so you understand what's happening in here. So this is this Bluebeam Studio project, and when I give you the signal, we're all going to log in here, and when we log into this studio project, you're going to see this folder structure appear. So again, kind of like Dropbox, kind of like something you're used to. And within there's what's called a conform drawing set right here. So that's probably the big folder that most of you are going to go to first, and maybe the conform specification set. We've got both of those all set up. But in addition, there's a whole bunch of other information here. For example, the construction information, we're going to start to populate that as we go. And processed RFIs, you can see here all of the processed RFIs that have been, basically any outgoing RFI will get fed to me, to AECOM, and we'll upload it, or you guys can upload it directly. So when you're in here, it's very easy to, again, this is very similar to something like Box, where you have ability to, easily download a copy, check in, check out files. We'll talk about all that. So, if you need to send this conform drawing set out, which is right here, you can just right click and download that copy and send that out if you need to. But the reality is that, if you're maintaining this in Bluebeam, and we are maintaining this and we're constantly updating this, that's why it has this updated date on here, it kind of gives you an understanding that you're always, if you come here, you're always going to be looking at the very latest set with all of the information in it. So that's the whole idea. Now you can see a whole bunch of other stuff in here. All these training drawings, this is all for today. So this is all going to be, this will all be deleted tomorrow, but I put all these in here so all of us can have a copy of this that we can go into and not mess up the true conform set, because that's obviously not something we want to accidentally delete or something. So I got a whole bunch of training copies for you. So I'm going to come out of here, and I'm going to get back to where you guys are, which is right here. And now let's go ahead, and we have the software open, we have the profile loaded. We're going to now join into the Bluebeam Studio project that I was mentioning here. So let's go ahead and everyone find this little plus button right here, click on the plus button, and then just click join. Now, if you look over here, this gives you the name, and then it gives you this 9-digit code. So this is kind of a random code, but this is like the key to go ahead and get into the software. So let's have everyone go ahead and type that key in. So it's 185-051-510. So you can see I didn't put the hyphens in. You can put the hyphens in if you want. Doesn't really matter. Everyone go ahead and click that, and go ahead, and then once you do, you'll see a screen, something like this should appear. It might prompt you to split the screen or something. Don't worry about that. Or it might, but it should look something like this. Now, it might look like this with these big folders here. You can change that right up here in the little list if it's showing differently than what you're seeing here. So I have my list on, and I'm clicking right here on this guy. And so everyone go ahead and log into that. If you're having trouble logging in, if it's not letting you in, if it's giving you some kind of problem, just let me know. And because what I want to do next is I want to actually now start to look at the contents in here. So one thing
Troy, I'm going to break in here real quick. This is Tim. I'm going to have to leave the session. It's by design. I'm familiar with Bluebeam, so I'll be okay. But yeah, thank you. It looks like you guys are off to a good start. And Anthony and group, we'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Troy, is it okay if I say something here? Just for the start new, I just had to, for all projects, I just had to hit that button, and then it allowed me to join it.
Okay.
So it just took me a little bit to figure that out, but I saw it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's unfortunately going to look a little bit different for new users than I can't recreate it perfectly, but it should be pretty close. And so let's talk about actually while we're here, let's talk about what we've done so far, and let's actually bring in the old iPad because, you know, again, I know some of you are going to be accessing this on an iPad. And so for that, just note that really it's kind of the same thing here. So again, this is a screenshot that I have of my my iPad here that hopefully all you guys can see. And so note that, you know, remember I said look for this studio button. So here is the studio button on the iPad. It looks a little different, but it's really the same button. And then here is the projects, right? So the projects, which is what you see right here, this button, which I tell people kind of looks like, you know, like a file cabinet. So you're looking kind of down at a file cabinet. That's kind of how I look at it because I'm kind of like a file library. You know, when you're talking about the iPad, it's kind of that same button, right? It kind of looks the same thing. And then when you're going through the projects, again, you know, for me, I'm looking through a whole bunch of projects over here to find the one I'm looking for, that CCC. Same thing for you guys. You'll just, if you have multiple projects, you'll be looking for that one. Or if you wanted to join, you would actually click on this little chair right here to join. So everything I'm showing you here with Windows is applicable to the iPad. It's just you'll need to know where the buttons are located. So once you do join into the iPad, you'll see this folder structure. And again, if I move over here, this is the iPad right here. Here's the folder structure. It exactly matches here. So again, it's kind of like everything is sort of the same. So this training will really kind of get you ready to use the iPad. It's just figuring out where all the buttons are located on the iPad, and that's really the hardest part. Okay, so we've joined in. Hopefully everyone by now is in this folder structure. You can expand these down by clicking on these little carrots right here, and you can slide some of these guys down and give you more screen space. You can slide these around. Again, if you want to see this, click on this and it'll show you the information here, the date modified. Yours again might be different if you have different ones of these checked, but the reality is it's all sort of the same. So what I want everyone to do, and I'm not sure how we're actually going to do this. I think what I'll do is I'll assign each of you numbers. You see there's these drawing sets, and then you see there's a copy at the end of here. There's a copy 2, a copy 3, a copy 4, a copy 5, a copy 6. So what I want you to do, let's start with Anthony, if you wouldn't mind opening up copy number 2. And then who else do we have on this call? We have, I think, Steve, yeah, I think you're the only other one kind of following along. You want to go ahead, why don't you open up number 3? And then I don't know if there's anyone else who's actually at this point, but then one of you guys can open up 4 or 5. And what I'll do is I'll open up this one way down here, which probably no one will be. So you just, again, double click it. And when you double click it, it should open for you. So you see it kind of takes a second to appear. And yours is going to look a little different from mine. Let me come back because I know it's going to happen. I'm going to check this guy in. Yours is going to look a little bit different because with this, we need to do a check-in and check-out of the files. So I'm going to go ahead and let's actually do we'll actually do a setting here that will make that change. But when yours opens up, you see how it opens up and it's got a little lock on it, right? If it doesn't, then it means it's already checked out. So go ahead and right click on that little lock directly. Let me give it a second to kind of appear here. And then, oh, I'm sorry, actually we can't do it that way. So come back to this right here, to this conform drawing set, and right click here in the conform drawing set. and then go ahead and click checkout. So I just wanted to show, like, if you open it and you don't check it out, then it only has the lock, which means it's read only. Once you check it out, then it actually is an editable file. So this is kind of an important point to note here. If I'm out in the field, or if I'm at my desk and I come here and I log in to Bluebeam Studio, and I log into, over here to Studio, and I go to my Studio projects and I open up the, this CCC project, and I go to, maybe I put in the number to open it, or I join it, whatever. Once I get to this point and I want to look at these drawings, there's two ways I can look at these drawings. I can look at these drawings as a read-only, just to look at the file set. Maybe I just need to reference it. And if that's the case, then I would just want to open this with the lock without doing this extra step. If I want to actually edit the file and I want to maybe add some punch list items or add some markups or something, then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to check it out. So I'm going to want to right click and check out the file. So all of you should have now checked out the file. It should look, the little icon next to it should look something like this. It may have asked you to split the screen or not split the screen. Either way is probably fine. Sometimes people like to split it or not split the screen. So, but anyways, you should have your drawing set open, and it should look something like this. So if you guys are not seeing that, then let me know, and we'll kind of get there. I'll help you get there. So, we've done a couple things here. We've used Bluebeam Studio to get to the project, to open the project, and you see the project is open right here, and you see how that is duplicated. Yes.
Sure, this is Anthony. I tried to check it out, but it says already checked out. Is that?
Okay. It may be that you need to open a different one. Maybe open up number 5 or number 6.
Okay. Maybe. Let me do number 2. Okay. Oh, okay. No, never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Never mind.
So yeah, don't do the same one I'm doing. Do a different one for. That's why there's so many copies here.
Okay.
So, yeah,
thank you. Thank you.
And just one thing to note is that you can like check it out first before you open it. Like you can open it and then check it out, or you can check it out and then open it. It doesn't really matter. And again, also if you right click, you can download a copy, like if you need to send this to someone as well. So if it's checked out though, you'll note that there's a little shot right here. And you see how it kind of looks like a little, I don't know, looks like a little kind of drawing with a little arrow coming off it. That means it's been checked out. And so if I refresh this, I should be able to see if others have checked out files. So you see now I can see right there, Anthony, I can see that you've checked out number copy 2 here. So it's kind of like helpful to note what's going on over here when you see this. So Steve, if you wanted to open one of these others, you could open one of these and we could see that as well.
Yeah, I'm still downloading.
Okay, that's fine. At least you're watching, so that's important.
Yeah, the whole program is still downloading, not just.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so so you have these open, and let's now go ahead and you have it open here. You should be able to just to click over here and you should be able to see it. So this what I did for these trainings, for these training docs, is I only took the first 35 pages of the conform set. I didn't take the entire 230 something pages or 250 pages. I didn't want to take all of them because I didn't want this to be too big for the training. But at the moment, what we have in front of us is essentially this training set. And so now you're probably wondering, okay, how do I get around here? How do I maneuver around this drawing set? Well, you can, if you have a mouse with a wheel on it, you can roll that wheel in and out, and you can see that zooms you. If you have that mouse wheel, you can also press down on that mouse wheel. And when you press on that mouse wheel, what it does is it actually allows you to pan around the drawing as well. You can also use the pan down here. You can see my pan is selected. So I can be pointing at something, and if I press down on the mouse wheel, it changes it. Or I can just be kind of panning around as I go. Rolling in and out, again, zooms you in and out to the drawing set. So if I'm, I wanted, this is, this reference set, and this is kind of an old beat up scan drawings, but I can really get in here, and you can see you can get a pretty good level of kind of detail to really be able to, kind of zoom in with a little magnifying glass, literally here, to kind of see what's going on if you're curious about some of these old notes that have been set up here for this drawing. So you can zoom in and out with the wheel. You can also press the full page right here to take you back to the full page. If you don't want to, roll the mouse all the way back out, you can just click right here to the full page. You can see down here the different little arrows to get you to the previous and next page. So you can see these. We can go through these. Let's CD13, and actually, we'll make a note of that page, CD 1.3, so that we can use it again. Sorry about that.
Hey, Troy, this is Anthony. What if you don't have a mouse?
If you
move around the screen.
Okay, well, if you don't have a mouse, you can use 2 fingers on your trackpad of your laptop to zoom in and out. And you can kind of just press and maneuver around in this view to move to the thing.
Okay.
So take two fingers and put them on the trackpad and kind of push them for up and down, and you should still be able to zoom in and out, hopefully. And then, of course, if that is the case, it's going to be a little more difficult. It is better if you have a touch screen that you can pinch to zoom, that would be ideal, or a mouse to roll the wheel. But if you have neither of those, then you can make use of the trackpad, and you can still, by kind of moving your 2 fingers up and down, you should be able to kind of get in and out. And then just remember this button right here, the full page, to be able to get you back. If you're totally out of control and you have no idea where you are here in this drawing, the best thing to do is just to hit this button right here and kind of take you back to where you started.
Okay, good. It worked with using the 2 fingers.
Good. All right. So yeah, keep asking those questions. That's totally fine. I will do my best to answer anything I can. So let's now go ahead and let's go to the first page right here. So these little arrows should be able to get you back and forth. Now note one thing, like if this is like way over here, sometimes it cuts off some of this stuff, so you don't see it at the bottom. So you'll want to just maybe slide this back. And in fact, what we can do is, you see, as you hover over these, it kind of turns into a blue arrow. And then you can kind of press and drag, right? So what you can also do is that you can actually just press on this blue, and you see how it disappears. And if I come over here, that blue line reappears, and I can, the reality is we used Studio right here. You can also press on the icon, but we used Studio to get to find our Studio project. And now that we've done that, we don't really need this anymore, right? We can kind of do without that and give ourselves more real estate. So you can press and get rid of those things if you want. One other thing to note here is, you should be able to move within these tabs. Sometimes it splits the screen. It kind of splits it like this, so you have it something like this. Just note that if that happens, you can slide this over as far as you want, or what you can do is you can actually, how do you get out of this? You can close. Oh yeah, you can close this, and I think that should allow this to be open. I'm trying to recreate every possible scenario that you guys might come across. So I'm not sure if I'm doing everything exactly, but yeah, there we go. You know, a lot of these little buttons will get you kind of to different places, but you can slide any one of these way over as you see fit as you come through here. So let's go ahead and now take a look, and even if you wanted to bring this all the way over just to really give yourself maximum space, you can do that too. So now let's look over here on the left-hand side, because we got a few buttons as well that I want to make note of. And again, as we're going through this, you know, I'm going to show you some of the equivalent buttons that are on the iPad. Let's see if we can bring some of those up here. There we go. So as you're looking at these buttons right here, this tool chest, and this one right here, the thumbnails, and this one right here, the bookmarks, notice that they're the equivalent buttons that exist on the iPad as well, right? So these are really probably the three main buttons you're going to deal with, both in Windows and on an iPad. And as you are working in either place, what you're going to do is you're going to hit the down arrow on the iPad, and that will bring up this little menu so you can move across here. So I'll get this out of the way for now. And let's go ahead and show you what these three do. So this one first is the thumbnails. So the thumbnails are, there we go. The thumbnails should show you something that you're probably used to seeing. It'll show you a list of all the drawings going down. Anyone who's ever used Adobe's probably seen these. This is the thumbnails right here. And so as you're looking through this is good, and it's helpful. Notice that it's not just showing 1, 2, 3, 4. It's showing the actual sheet numbers here. So you can easily find the sheet you want. That's good, but it's still not great because it takes a while for this to refresh. And if you know, it might be great to see the screen, to see the page, but if you have to wait, you know, 20 minutes for this to actually show up, then it's not that useful. What is more useful for me compared to the thumbnails is the one right above it, which is the bookmarks. So again, bookmarks here. This is really kind of getting into the actual page, you know, and if we're all at page 1 on the sheet index page, it really kind of mimics that sheet index. So you see here, if I wanted to, I could go to any one of these particular pages just by clicking on them. And so you see that I can, you know, get to all these pages. This little caret right here allows me to kind of roll everything up. So if I'm only, let's say, interested in civil demolition, I can just click and open just that set and leave everything else sort of kind of minimized so I don't have to look at it. I don't have to worry about it. So this is bookmarks, and it's really, really useful. Let's go ahead and play around with the bookmarks a little bit, and then when you're done, click on General to come back to the top, or you know, you can always go back to that first page. You know, if you're on a different page, you can always click this little first page to go back to the first page. So that's the thumbnails and the bookmarks, and that's kind of a really good way for you to navigate around your drawing set. So one other way that you can navigate is once you get to this sheet index right here and you zoom in, oops, sorry about that. Once you zoom in, you can see that these are highlighted a little bit in yellow. So the fact that they're highlighted in yellow means that they actually have hyperlinks attached to them. So now remember, I cut this drawing set off at the first 35 pages. So all of these further pages, when you click on them, they're not really going to take you anywhere. Just keep that in mind. But the first ones, the first set here going through civil, if you click on these, they should take you to the appropriate page. So again, this is a scanned set of drawings, and we have tried our best to kind of shrink it as much as we can. But because it came from old paper sets, a lot of these pages take a little while. So what I want everyone to do is let's come back to the first page. Let's zoom in. And then what I want you to do is go ahead and let's go to the site plan right here, which is C1.2. So one other thing to notice when you're thinking about hyperlinks is that in some cases, it looks like it didn't happen here. Let's maybe we'll go one page previous, one or two pages previous. In some cases, these RFIs caused a little bit of problem with the hyperlinks, specifically with the object character recognition for those hyperlinks. So I did want to show you, of course, I can never seem to find them when I'm looking for them, but what happens is as you're going through these, you should, if I can find a good plan here, you should be able to see hyperlinks within the drawings themselves. And so you're never going to find them when you're looking for them, but in some cases, you'll see that as you go in here, there are some areas which are yellow. And if they're referencing a sheet, you can click, even though I'm on C33, if I click, it takes me to that C6.1 page. So you'll see once this refreshes and I come down here, now it's taken me to C6.1. So you'll see anywhere where there's, not everywhere, but in a lot of cases where there's a reference to a sheet, let's say this one, C44, you see this little yellow, and you click it, it'll take you to that other page. So we did a lot of work on this set of drawings, even though it was a scanned set in a lot of cases. We did a lot of work to get it to the point where you could actually hyperlink around and get to pages. Of course, you can always use the bookmarks over here to also kind of get you around to the different pages. So one other thing I want to point out is the, let's have everyone go to sheet CD, the civil demolition, 1.3. So let's everyone go to that page. So one other thing that's here as well is the references to the RFIs. So this is a great example here because there are multiple RFIs that were referenced on this particular page. And so one thing that is here is you have the ability when you see these RFIs, usually right next to them, you'll see this little kind of lightning bolt thing happening here as you're looking at the RFIs. And if you click on one of those, lightning bolts, what it will do is it will take you in the true conform set, it will take you and open that RFI for you. Unfortunately, because I broke this set out from its, this is the training set, because I broke this set out here, it's not going to work. I actually do have, let's see if I can open up the conform set here. And I can actually show you that. If I was to actually open the actual conform set, what I'll do maybe is we'll open a backup of the conform set just so we don't do anything wrong. I try to be very careful with that set. Oh, actually, no, I apologize. It actually does have to be the true conform set. So let's go ahead and open that up. When you open up this, when you're working in the true conform set, though, what happens is when you click on those RFI pages, it will take you and it will open the actual RFI set up. Because remember, the RFI is located within Bluebeam Studio Project as well. So it's in here, it's in these folders, it's just a little further down under RFIs. And so you can actually click and get into that. So while I'm waiting on this, I'll open it up. If anyone has any questions at this point, I'll let you guys ask a question. One other thing I'll say while you're asking a question, remember to unmute yourself if you do want to ask a question. One other thing I will say is that you can see the RFIs in the iPad as well. Unfortunately, the one thing you cannot do in the iPad is you cannot do this hyperlinking to have the set for the RFI specifically open up that RFI. But you'll see as you look at this sheet here, everything else will work just fine. You'll be able to go ahead and do that. So let me just see. Let me come back. Let me just see. Maybe I was looking at the wrong sheet here. Let me go to my training set one more time, and let's go to our demo. We'll minimize that for just a second. And we will come back to that sheet, that demo sheet, which was CD13, I think. Let's just see if these work. No, they do not. Okay. So that's the training set. Let's look at what it looks like on the actual conform set. So let's do that. So this is, now I actually have the conform set open. So you can see the conform set has the full list of all the drawings. And if I go to CD103 and I go to one of these RFIs and I click on it, let's go ahead and click on it. What will happen is when I click on it, it automatically opens up that specific RFI. So that was RFI 60. You can go through and then, you know, it's the same thing. You can just hit like the next page to get to that second page, and you can see that these comments that are made specifically. And so if you're on an iPad, unfortunately, you can't do this little click right here to go to that RFI, but if you are on the iPad, you can still come to the actual, you know, folder list, and you can go down to processed RFIs and you can open up any RFI you want. So at least you'll kind of know when you're in here which RFI is referenced in this particular section. So all of these RFIs have been added with the exception of the last couple. So I'll show you again, I'll show you guys how to do that as well to give you kind of an idea of how all this comes together. So I'm going to go and I'm going to go ahead and go down in my RFI folder, and you guys can kind of just watch along here for this. And let's go ahead and I think, let's see if number 105, I believe that has a drawing in it. Actually, no, I think it's 103 that we want to reference here. So 103, again, I'll show you how these are made. So in 103, there's a referenced drawing right here. And typically what we'll do is we'll read through these and we'll get an understanding of what's affected. But in this one, we know that sheet A72 is affected here. And so what happens is we know that this is RFI number 103, and it's affecting sheet A7.2, right? So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and, you know, close that RFI out. And in the conform set, what we do is we actually come and we add one of these RFI sheets right here. And once we add it, then we make a note of its relationship to that particular RFI. So with that, I want to kind of bring us into the next phase of our training, which is working with the tool chest right here. Again, that tool chest, go ahead, everyone can go ahead and click on it. You can zoom back out to your drawing. And again, you guys, this is a training set, so you can feel free to mark on this drawing set. You'll see as you look through here, any markup that you make with the tool chest will automatically be added down here in the markups list. So I will show you that RFI in a minute, but let's kind of go through some of the basics of this. And so what I want everyone to do now is I want everyone to kind of go back to your bookmarks, and I want you to go scroll down a little bit, and let's go to the site plan for the court area, which is C13 sheet. And let's say that you wanted to add a note in here particular to this one. Actually, let's go to the let's go to C11. I think that's going to be probably a better one. We'll see if that one looks a little bit better. Yeah, that looks much better. So and remember, you can use the 2 fingers to zoom in. You can press you can have this guy here, and you can press and slide around. You see the hyperlinks are active here. So if you wanted to see this this section cut, or this this section cut over here, you could just click and it would take you to those sets. Let's not click for now. But let's go ahead and let's say that we wanted to add a punch item. Now that we've used the bookmarks to get to C11, we can now switch to the tool chest. And let's take a quick look at the tool chest. So you see all of these different issues that are spelled out for punch items. Those are all identified here. And so if we wanted to, let's say we noticed an issue, let's just say we noticed an uneven joint particular to something here, or let's say maybe the hardware lock. There's as we go through here and we're looking, as you find items, let's say for this particular door right here, I mean, you probably do this on a floor plan, but let's just pretend this is the floor plan. You can go through any one of these, and as you find them, you can go ahead and anyone, you guys can remember, this is your training set right here. So if you're in your training set, you can go ahead and grab one of these and move it out and just drop it right down here. So again, coming back to the iPad, as we go through this, let me see if I can find, the iPad will have these same symbols on it. When we do the iPad training, I'll show you how to add these symbols. And you can do the same thing. You can drag these out. And what you can also do on an iPad that's really nice is you can take a photo using your camera on your iPad, and you can add a little photo with that punch item. So it's all the same process. We're just showing you here in Windows instead of on one of the others. So go ahead and drag a few of these out. Do a couple, 2 or 3, just so you get kind of the feel of how to do the particular punch items. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll actually now move up and we'll actually add in one of our review items. So you see, I can take this tool chest and I can, shrink all these up if I'm not going to use them. If I'm never going to look at lighting issues, I can start to shrink some of these so that I get to some of the others that I want. Kind of the same thing as with some of these other folders. But the 2 you'll probably want to use for sure are, the review, the first one, of course the RFIs, which we'll talk about in a minute, and some of these other particular punch issues. So let's have everyone now go ahead and come in here and go ahead and just maybe add a call out. I'll just show you really quick how to do something like this. Let's say you're looking at this and you notice an issue with this curb right here. You can come in and you can take a call out. You can put it along that curb, and you see how you can adjust it, and then so if you wanted to add in a specific note and point it at something, you can always do that. And you see how you can move this pointer around just by grabbing on the little circles, the little points here at the end of these. You can move this around as well if you wanted to get it adjusted. So all of this, remember, one thing to remember is in order to make these comments on here, you have to check out your drawing, right? So the drawing has to be checked out. The second thing is, once you have made a comment and then you save it and you close it, it'll be available for everyone else to see. Unfortunately, with this, the way we're working here, for now, we're going to be working in the sense that it's only one person who's able to actually check out the document at a time. So as we're looking through this, and we are to the point where we are getting actually into the conformed drawing set, only one person, unfortunately, can check it out at a time. And once it's checked out, anyone else can open it and look at it, but you can't make changes to it. So it becomes read-only. All right, let's come back to our set here. We've made some changes. We've made some marks. Now what I want everyone to do is this markups list here at the bottom. I want everyone to kind of slide it up about 1/3 of the way up so you can see it. So you can see here in this markups list, you have this list right here. And when I click on one of my things, when I click on mine, you see it highlights it for me. So you see it'll give the page label that it's on, it'll give my name, it'll give the date, and then it'll give that information. So a couple things on here. One thing we want to do is we want to set up this name. We did do the one part where we set up the display name, but I want to set it up a second time so that we can see it. So everyone, let's go to review. Let's go to preferences. And if you could, go to general. And let's make, you see how mine has fire on it. I'm going to change that to AECOM. So you see how this username, this information here in general, that's where it's pulling it from. It actually pulls it from here. And then if you go down to Studio and you go to servers, it pulls it from here as well. So you want to make sure that those two places, if you get to the point you're not seeing your name set correctly, you want to make sure that those two are set up. One other thing we can do is, since we're in here and we're in Studio, under Studio Options, notice that, remember when I said opening the file and checking out are two different things you do by right-clicking? If you wanted to combine those, you could check out the files on Open Automatically by checking this box. So I don't want, only do that if you know you want to do that. I would say leave it off for now until we get to the point where people are a little more comfortable. But I just want to make sure everyone knows where that setting is and that's recorded. So if you're so now that we know where our author information came from, let's keep looking at this markup that we've created, and let's take a look. So we see the information here. We have the name, we have the curb. If you double click, you can change that. If you wanted to add more information, you wanted to type more in, you could always type that in and it'll update. You'll see it updates both places. Okay, so coming into here, again, if you place one of these as well, it automatically adds a comment for you, right? No one here typed in that comment. But if you want to explain further, lock does not work, repair, you could actually go in and you can edit that information that you place. So using these punch items kind of places, you can see here in the comment, it places a little note for you automatically, but you can always further change that note by double clicking it and adding more information. Now, hopefully when we're talking about the iPad, everything that I just showed you is pretty much the same thing. Again, as I mentioned before, you can place these down and you can come in here, and again, at the bottom of the iPad, there is the markups list, and you can, we'll talk about what this is in just a minute, but you can come in here to these comments that are made, and you can double click and you can change them here as well. So all of this is happening this pretty much the same way in the iPad. It just kind of is looking a little bit different. Okay, so one last thing I do want to show you here is the RFI as well. So remember I said way back, and let me go to the actual conform set of drawings here, that on page A72 there was a reference. So I'll go to that page A72. Was it A72? I thought it was. And on A72 there was a reference to RFI 103. And so you can see if I open this back up again, you probably remember we were there on that sheet. So it was a reference to these mullions. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my conform set, and I'm going to, not going to get in too much detail, but I'm going to go ahead and take my RFI and then take and drag and drop that in right here. And then on that RFI, I'm going to punch in the name of that RFI. So I believe it's 103. So again, coming in here, I can just double click and I can just change all this to 103. So you see how it's, once I've done that, it's pretty easy to make to add that comment in. But then the other thing that I do here is I also edit an action. So what that means is I add another action associated with this little thing. It's that little lightning bolt that you see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to automatically open the in processed RFIs, RFI number 103. And even, I don't know if you probably didn't see, you can even check it out at open if you want, which will make it even better. If I go through here and I click it and I check it out at open and I hit OK. It doesn't really matter. You don't necessarily have to check it out at open. Mine checks it out at open automatically anyway. So it's something you can set. I will actually turn it off, because the reality is you probably don't need to edit anything there, right? You don't need to edit it. You just need to open it and look at it really quick. So you see, once I do that, it adds that little lightning bolt here, and that's how I can click this and automatically open up this drawing right there. So you see, this is a pretty powerful tool. It allows you to kind of really maneuver around a set of drawings and add a bunch of information automatically. So those of you who are following along, hopefully you've made a few marks here on this drawing set. Let's continue talking about that. So you as the reviewer, I'm going to go ahead and slide this up, everyone. If you want to grab onto that blue line you see, you can slide this up a little bit. And slide it up so when you click on this, you can kind of see your comment. You see how it highlights it in blue for you. So once you make a comment, there's going to be some need for follow-up on that comment, right? So if you do a punch item on this door and you say, you know, outside lock does not work, repair, you know, there's going to need the CM is probably going to need to come in, or the CA, and take a look at this, and hopefully the construction team will get it fixed for you. So one other thing as part of this markups list is this status bar right here. So the status bar is what allows us to kind of have a communication back and forth within this drawing set, right? So if everyone click on one of your markups, come to the location in the markup, and then click right in this location in the status. So again, don't click up here, don't double click here, double click right here. And when you do, you should see this little comment thing that comes up, and it has, for example, the punch list status. So if this is a punch list item, which it is, the CM could respond that it is been completed once it's been fixed, right? And so now, let's say the AE comes back and checks this, the mark has been made, the punch item has been made, the status has been set, and then, the AE could come back and eventually go ahead and close this. And notice what happens when it gets closed. I had it set up so that it changes slightly in color, so you can kind of tell the difference between something that's active as a punch list item and something that's already been closed and completed. So as you're working through this, and again, the same thing will happen on the iPad. As you're working through this, you can go ahead and you can set this status. And here I have a picture of, again, in the punch list status here on the iPad, I placed a punch list item, and I clicked on that item on the iPad. And if you click here in the status area, it gives you that status. So I could have selected one of these as well. So again, everything that I'm showing you is really the same on the iPad. It's just kind of where the button's located, and that's kind of the idea. So as you go through these, you have a punch list item which you may complete and close. If you have a review item, and I double click, there's a place for general review comment status as well. So the originator of the drawing set itself, the AE essentially, if you you ask to remove the curb for ADA access, the civil engineer is going to come back and look at this, and they may agree with you and say that they're going to do it, or they may disagree with you and say, there's already an access curb right here. Why do you don't need another one right here? So the idea here is that they could disagree with you. And you see how it says per reply right here, right? Per disagree per reply. To add a reply, you right click and you add in this little reply. ADA access on flat curb. So the idea here is that there can be this kind of communication that happens. A comment is made and a response is made to that comment, right? So, anyone who we give access to this would have the ability to come in here and actually start to come in and double click and access these comments and make changes. So once that's done, maybe you will realize, oh yeah, there is an access on the flat part. I don't need one here. And so maybe then you would come back to this comment right here. You would, maybe right click and add your own reply, and then once you've done that, maybe you would again come up here, double click. Oops, sorry. Go into the status, double click, go under general review right here. And as the reviewer, you might close this guy right here. So you see when this one gets closed, it changes. We may want to have that change to the same color. But anyways, all of these are really easy things to fix. But you can see how what this does is it kind of creates this communication within this markups list down here that you can have between the different groups. So let's review some of the stuff we've done here as we go back through. And this time I'm going to go ahead and show you a lot of this on the actual conform set here. So we've used Bluebeam Studio to open up Studio projects. And within the Studio project, we found our project and we joined it by clicking that little plus sign and going to typing in this number here, this Studio ID. And once we did that, it'll always be here now. We'll never have to type that number in again because it's always going to be in our little shortcut. Once we've entered into that, you see we have all of the different folders here, and we'll have a conform drawing set, which you see when you want to open, you just right click and you check out, and then right click and then open, or vice versa to get that open. Once you have that open, and again, you guys can play around with the training sets. I'll leave a couple of those in here. When you're ready, you'll open up the conform set. Once you have the conform set open, you're going to see all of your thumbnails here on the left, which kind of help you maneuver around. But better than the thumbnails, I think, are the bookmarks. So the bookmarks, again, you can roll all these up and you see all these different groups here. If you're only interested in electrical, you can come in here and you can then go to these electrical pages. As you look at these, a couple things to notice as you're looking at these pages. In some cases, you are going to see a 1.21. So in addition to this CD 1.2, this demolition plan, there was a sketch that was added as part of an ADI. And so these ADIs would be noted here. And when you look at this sketch, then you can see the relationship because it's the .1 version of that drawing. So instead of trying to overwrite this, we just added this ADI as this particular next page in this drawing set. So you're working through with your bookmarks, you're getting to the actual drawing you want. Once you find that drawing, then you can see how you should be able to maneuver around by rolling your mouse in and out or using your fingers, 2 fingers on the trackpad. You're able to pan around by pressing with the pan button here. If you get really lost and really stuck, you can always hit this full page to get you back out. So now that you've found your drawing, you found your drawing, you don't really need this anymore. You can move that out of the way. You found your page, you're good to go there. So now you can move up to the tool chest and start to place your punch items in. So you place in your punch items, maybe you add in a call out, or you want to use a cloud. And let's say you want to use something like the Cloud Plus, which allows you to put a cloud around something and then call out a comment related to it. You can do that as well. Once you make that comment, you see that information is down here. You can double click down here to add a comment. And then eventually we'll be going through the statuses to communicate what's the status of any comment that's been made. In the back check, you'll go ahead and go through and close that out using that same status list there. And eventually, once you get to the point where you have all worked through this set and you've got it the way you want it, if you've made changes, and notice it adds a little star if changes have been made. If you've made changes, you can go ahead and hit the save button and that will save it. Once you close these sets, when you close them out, it will ask you to check them in if they are checked out. And you'll need to check them back in. It's important to note that these files will need to be checked in before anyone else can actually edit them. So if you forget that last step about checking something in when you close it, then it's just going to sit there until either you or I check it back in. So I'm going to open up to questions now, if anyone has any questions.
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
If it's left open, does it identify who has it open so we can contact them?
Great question. Yes, it does. So notice here, and I don't know if you know, if I hover over this, you see this looks a little different, right? That has like a little head, like a little person silhouette, and then this is just like me. So this is one that I've checked out, and then this is what Anthony has checked out. So you can see how it looks a little different, and it actually gives me his email address and tells me that he has checked it out. And again, if it's just checked out to you, you'll know it, but if it's checked out to someone else, you'll see it. And just so you know, I, as the administrator, will have the ability to come in here and revoke the checkouts if people have done that. But if that happens, then any changes that have happened will be lost. So if someone comes in here and adds some items, and then I revoke that checkout, then those items are lost. So, any other questions?
Yes, Troy, I have one. Sometimes, like for instance, we have a change right now that we're relocating some of the underground utilities, like a fire water line.
Okay.
And it probably won't show up on the RFI. And I know the client and our design team probably want to know the location of it. Is there a way that we can actually draw a line and then call it out on?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great
Sure.
question. I'll do it on my training drawing set here, and I suggest you do that too before you move on to the real one. But what you can do is, let's say that you're over here and you know that there's going to be a line coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously this is a very complex software application. I'm only showing you 1/50th of all that it can do, but you can come in here to tools, and you can actually you can sketch, you can do markups that are things like lines if you want, or even markups that are things like the actual pen tool. So if I was to click on this, I could draw something out here, or if I wanted to, in the markup, I could draw a line. And you see, once I draw it now, one other thing that happens is it actually gives me kind of the properties of that line. So there are properties over here of the line where I could change the color and everything. Or what I can do is I can kind of do the same thing up here. So let's say I want to make this blue, and I want to make this like kind of dashed, actually, let's make it a gas line. Let's call it what it actually is, if it's a real thing here. You can start, you see I can make it bigger. I can, you can really kind of mess around with it and, add in that particular thing. So it will come in as a line that was drawn by you, with that information on it.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, and you can even, you could even add a comment here, new gas line to be installed on, May 5th or something like that. So yeah, anything you do here, it's nice because this is one set of drawings and we're all going to see it, and anything you do will be reflected. Once I do that, then I would save it. Remember, this is the training, so I'm not actually messing with the conform set. You would save it, and then you would close it. When you close it, you would check it. It'll prompt you to check it in. You hit check in, and it will actually check in that drawing and have that updated information inside of it for everyone to see.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording here. We're exactly at 1:30. So